This is the 1974 piece, The Last Fish by Leonora Carrington. She was a surrealist who lived a life so wild it could have been one of her paintings. She lived through absolute chaos to become one of the most fascinating artists of the 20th century, and we will talk all about her today. If you want to enrich your algorithm with some art, just hit follow. Leonora Carrington was born April 6, 1917 in England. She grew up in this Gothic revival mansion called Crookie Hall, and it had a big impact on her imagination. She was educated by nuns and always rebellious, expelled from multiple schools until her family sent her to Florence, where she studied art. She first discovered Surrealism when her mom gave her Herbert Reed's book called Surrealism. She was from a rich upper-class family that didn't really want her to be an artist, but more so they just wanted her to stay out of trouble. In 1936, she saw the work of German surrealist Max Ernst and said that she was obsessed with him before they'd even met. But a year later, they did actually meet at a party in London, and that was it. They fell in love, ran off to London, and Ernst separated from his wife. They made love and art together, and in 1938, they painted portraits of each other. Ernst's The Triumph of Love featured both artists in his composition, whereas Carrington's portrait of Max Ernst focused solely on him. But then World War II hit. Ernst was German, so the French authorities arrested him as an enemy alien. And later, when the Nazis occupied France, he was arrested again, this time by the Gestapo because his art was considered degenerate. He later escaped to the US with the help of Peggy Guggenheim, who was a major supporter of the arts. Yes, the same Peggy Guggenheim behind the Guggenheim Museum. Also, her dad died on the Titanic. Anyways, Leonora was now left behind all alone, and she spiraled. She suffered a complete breakdown, was institutionalized, and was subjected to shock therapy. Her parents tried to send her off to South Africa for treatment, but then she escaped in Portugal and ran to the Mexican embassy. She went to find Renato Leduc, who was a poet and the Mexican ambassador. They had been introduced in Paris by their common acquaintance, Pablo Picasso. They got married so that she could get the immunity of a diplomat's wife, and then they moved to Mexico in 1942. They got divorced a year later, but Leonora stayed in Mexico creating art that the people loved. In 1963, she was asked to create a mural that she named El Mundo Mágico de las Mayas, and it is still on display at the National Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City. She lived in Mexico for the rest of her life and died in 2011 at the age of 94. She was buried at a cemetery in Mexico City, but her legacy continues to grow around the world, and of course, why wouldn't it? Look at her art. In 2024, this painting, Les Distractions de Dagobert, sold at Sotheby's for $28.5 million.